If atheists argued like apologists, do you think the religious would buy our arguments, or do you think that they would find the obvious flaws atheists already see in popular apologetics? Nothing is ever going to convince me that God exists. I admit that that's where I start from. The difference between us is I trust man's word, and you trust Ham's word. Some people say that the existence of goodness proves that God exists, but no, let me tell you why that's false. Good can only exist if evil exists. You wouldn't even know good exists without evil. Here's the interesting part. Evil only exists in the absence of anything divine. Therefore, because good exists, God doesn't exist. You know, I hate to do it because the guy who whips out his credentials comes off as just kind of a jerk, but I do have a relevant PhD, making me an expert on this topic. I do know what I'm talking about. The problem is that you've suppressed the truth in irrationality. Deep down, you know that God doesn't exist because you can't know anything without the understanding of that fundamental truth of the universe. That's my proof. Now the burden is on you to disprove it. I'm pretty sure I'm qualified to speak on this because I have a degree in this topic. Do you have a degree in this? See, our starting point is that there's definitely no God. That's what we come into any discussion believing. Then, when new data is presented to us, we interpret the data through our worldview to fit our belief that God doesn't exist. That's how we can reliably come to know that there's no God.
I have a degree!
Why would you want there to be a God? Why would you want to live in such a tyrannically governed dystopia where there's no hope or purpose but to give praise unto a being which apparently cares so little for your existence? So, to our benefit, with some difficulty, with a certain amount of historical knowledge, we construct a belief that helps us discover what we ought to do and how we ought to live, in the belief that there is freedom from such a painful reality.
You say there's a God. I say, can you prove that? You say no. I say I don't believe you then.
This is what evolutionists have been searching for hundreds of years. This is called the crocodile. Can you see this?
God, I'm not.
Let me ask you something. Are you a theist?
Yeah, I am.
Have you ever told a lie?
Yeah, I think everyone has.
Have you ever stolen something?
Well, yeah, sure. Probably.
Do you think everyone would say those things are wrong all the time?
I think it really depends on who you ask. I don't know if everyone would say it's wrong all the time.
Right, therefore morality is subjective. There is no God.
What? A maximally great naturalistic law of physics exists in some possible world. But if such a law exists in some possible world, it must exist in every possible world. If it exists in every possible world, it exists in the actual world. Therefore, a maximally great naturalistic law of physics exists in the actual world. This precludes the existence of a truly omnipotent God, as only the law is maximally great. You can't have a rationally justified basis of morality without basing it on well-being rather than God. If someone has a different God than another, there's essentially no way one could argue their moral basis over the other. Morality must come from outside one's own faith. Oh wait, that actually makes sense. I studied quantum physics under John Polkinghorne, perhaps you know the name, one of the world's leading quantum physicists, and I did this at Cambridge University. So I am qualified to talk about issues surrounding the universe's origin. Just don't fact-check any of that. These arguments are all pretty ridiculous, just as they are when they're used in defense of religion. It's really easy to see the flaws in others' arguments, but it's difficult to see the flaws in our own. Because of that, it's useful to turn around certain arguments and see what they sound like coming from the other side. Sometimes this exposes flaws in arguments that are touted even by professional representatives of a certain position. So please, whatever side you're on, ask yourself what you'd think of your own arguments if you heard them used for the opposite position. There's a chance that doing that may help you understand why the argument is weak and should be either modified or entirely tossed out. If religious apologists would only do that, then there would probably be way fewer religious apologists. Thanks for watching. I've been Drew from Genetically Modified Skeptic. Thank you to my new personal sponsor, Phil, for helping make this video possible and for helping me afford some new equipment that you guys will see the benefit of very soon. You can always subscribe to my channel, and I'll greatly appreciate that. You can check out my Patreon. You can also follow me on Twitter at GMSkeptic. Until next time, everyone, stay skeptical.